Meanwhile, a woman named Tiffany Thompson, who is known to be Dallas Cowboys rookie EZEKIEL Elliott's girlfriend, posted photos on her Instagram account showing bruises that she alleges are the result of domestic violence. Elliott denied assaulting the woman and told police that he never lived with her. He has not been arrested or charged with the crime. Max, your reaction to the latest?
In the case of serious accusations like this, I think it's always best to wait for the facts to come out. However, there's a large segment of the population where that doesn't feel good enough, especially not at first. For example, especially about serious social issues. For example, the Black Lives Matter movement. When there is an instance of police brutality and someone gets on TV and says, let's wait for the facts to come out,
it's not good.
There's a sense that, well, when the facts do come out, the offending party, nothing happens, and the aggrieved party gets no justice. No justice, no peace. And so every time an example of potential unwarranted police violence comes up, there's an immediate emotional response to it. Don't tell us about the facts coming out. What difference is it going to make? Nothing's ever going to happen to the cop, good guy or bad guy. Now, it's not fair to the party who's being accused in a sense, because they're like, well, yes, I'm being lumped in with everybody else, but I'm innocent, and yet we know that they're not all innocent, and yet almost always there's not the repercussions that there should be. And I think that domestic violence is a similar issue, especially because there's been an atmosphere where it's been pervasive and it's permissive of it, especially when it comes to men who feel entitled, which certainly applies, certainly in the public perception, and also when you consider the kind of power they have and the money they make, to professional athletes. And the fact that he's a Dallas Cowboy doesn't help here either, because even among professional athletes, there's a sense that Dallas Cowboys, traditionally, if you're on that team, it amplifies your sense of entitlement. And so I would say wait for the facts to come out, but I understand if people have an immediate, severe emotional response to the mere accusation.
Over the past couple of years, despite the fact that I was raised by 5 women, and I've always been a lifelong advocate against domestic violence, the fact of the matter is that on far too many occasions, all of us have to look in the face and recognize that we're all guilty of having, the operative word would be lackadaisical approach, lack of aggression to really getting to the bottom of these issues as it pertains to domestic violence. On far too many occasions, the actions of us as a society have been reprehensible in terms of how we dragged our feet to get to justice on behalf of so many women out there who have been incredible victims at the hands of domestic violence. Ray Rice put a face on it, and then in the aftermath of Ray Rice, we learned that since Roger Goodell took over in 2006, there were approximately 50, if not more, cases where the National Organization for Women and other organizations brought to the attention of the NFL a problem that existed in this issue as it pertains to this issue, and they felt like not enough was being done about it. In the case of Greg Hardy, it was lightened even more so because that woman was brave enough to go before a judge during a bench trial and highlight what exactly had been done to her, to the point where even though Greg Hardy was able to pay off lawyers and, do interviews and ultimately ended up with a job with the Dallas Cowboys, he can't escape the details that were illuminated before all of our eyes by that lady who was clearly a victim, and we're going to call her a victim because obviously it's not just what she said. It was confirmed and validated by a bench judge in North Carolina who convicted Greg Hardy before the laws in North Carolina allowed him to appeal the decision, and it was ultimately thrown out because they couldn't find a girl who didn't want to testify again. I bring all of that up because when I heard this, on one hand, I'm thinking about EZEKIEL Elliott proclaiming his innocence. I'm thinking about Urban Meyer and others and how they've spoken about this kid. I'm thinking about the fact that he wasn't arrested. And I'm saying, okay, let's let the facts come out. But then I'm also thinking about her and what she said. And I'm thinking about that case involving that kid, Brock Turner, at Stanford.
Oh, yeah.
And how despicable his actions were to that lady, where he was basically assaulting her behind a garbage can, all right? And two, conscientious individuals jumped him and held him down for the police to come. And he should have been in prison for about 5 to 10 easy, and literally got off for 6 months because the judge, who was a Stanford alum, was sitting there talking about how he didn't want to ruin the kid's life. And the testimony that young lady gave in defense of herself, in the defense of domestic violence victims everywhere, it just elevates the level of awareness and sensitivity exponentially. So while we sit here and we say, like Max just said, we want to hear all the facts because we want to be every bit as fair to Ezekiel Elliott, let's make sure we're fair to her, but let's also shine a light on the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I'm known as a Dallas Cowboy hater, but that's all in fun. I'm a native New Yorker. I'm just playing around. I know that Dallas is a great team. I think that Jerry Jones is a great businessman. They're certainly not winners as far as I'm concerned. I do not understand why they're America's team, because they haven't won in 20 damn years. The flip side is, I look at this, and to me, the Dallas Cowboys walk around in this day and age, certainly not condoning anything like this, but they walk around with the veneer, the aura of just win, baby.
Yeah.
But they never win. So not only do you not win on the football field, but in the court of public opinion, they're not winning in terms of positive press. Now, they may not care because any press is good press if you go by that mantra. But in the end, I do think it's something to be concerned about, because in the case of Ezekiel Elliott, I won't lie, this is one of those days where it doesn't look good for him to be a Dallas Cowboy. I'm going to say it. It doesn't look good for you to be a Dallas Cowboy, because the Dallas Cowboys taking the chance on Greg Hardy and having the troubles that they have in other categories, with dudes getting suspended, not for this reason, but other reasons. And another dude that's no longer on the team robbing department stores for cologne and pairs of drawers. I mean, every time you turn around with the Cowboys,
those rookie contracts.
It's something.
Can't eat.
I'm just saying.
I think you're right about the Dallas Cowboys. Professional athletes, and listen, if you take a large group of people, you will find bad behavior in that group of people. Particularly in the case of football, you have a lot of people who didn't grow up with anything and then suddenly acquire fame and fortune and power very quickly. And maybe even along the way, they've been treated differently than other people because of their potential to help on the field. And so there is that sense that these guys are, many of them, or some of them at least, are entitled, and that's a bad thing. In the case of the Cowboys, as I said, that is magnified. And sometimes that's a good thing. There are perks that go along with being a member of the Dallas Cowboys. They're America's team, by the way, because Tex Schramm was a brilliant PR guy back in the day and said America's team, and people bought it.
Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, right. And by the way, you're right. It's not like they've been very good in a very long time, and yet they're still treated as though, even look at the odds, who's going to win the Super Bowl. Dallas, the odds always seem out of whack with the reality of the team. And so here is an example of the kind of heightened responsibility that you have if you're on a team like that. You have certain perks, but it also heightens your responsibility to completely keep yourself out of any kind of situation as much as you can control it, where you could even be accused of something like this. And again, I don't want to rush to judgment. You always let the facts come out. And right now, as you mentioned, he hasn't been arrested or charged with
Not at all. I will say this, too. One of the things that rakes my nerves about the Dallas Cowboys is that being called America's team.
Yeah.
Because I have fun with it because they don't win. But I'm serious about it in terms of them being highlighted and illuminated as the standard. What standard have they set? You got a nice uniform. You got $1 billion playpen because you got an owner with oil money.
Always in the headline.
You're always in the headline. But if you sat back and just took stock of the Dallas Cowboys and why they have made headlines over the past decade,
it ain't good.
It ain't good. I mean, the bad far outweighs the good.
Yeah.
On the field and off the field. They just returned the relevance in terms of winning a couple of seasons ago when they won 12 games, and they ultimately lost to Green Bay in the divisional playoff game. But that's it.
Yeah.
That is it.
And you're right. It's not even a deserved sense because they haven't won enough. But there is a sense that they care more about the product on the field and pandering to their fans who only care about the results on the field than they do about kind of social responsibility.
Yeah, a lot of character
or
issues.
disciplining players. You would expect if there's a player with a character issue that, now, by the way, this is not always deserved because there are players on every team, on the Patriots, on the Steelers, on the Giants, on those old school Northeastern original football teams, that are considered character style teams. There are bad apples there too. But the sense is if there's a guy in a draft coming up with character issues and he's fallen down in the draft a little bit, you're not expecting the Patriots or the Steelers or the Giants to take him. But if the Cowboys take him, you're like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, because that's what they've done. And see, my thing is, and I brought up Al Davis's, God rest his soul, Al Davis's old Raiders, because he had the same image too. And it was slow, they sloganized, for lack of a better word. He put a slogan on it. Just win, baby.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. He was winning when he did it.
Yeah.
The Dallas Cowboys don't win. They don't win.
And if you sacrifice,
I don't get it.
If you sacrifice character on the altar of talent and you don't win, it indicates that maybe your process isn't right and that maybe you're underestimating how important character is on the field. Again, none of this is to say that Ezekiel Elliott doesn't have character.
That's right.
It's just kind of an entree into it's a point into the peg into the conversation.
It's not to cast any aspersions against him because we don't know the truth. We don't know whether she's telling the truth or whether he's telling the truth. But I do think the one undeniable point in this conversation is that it would look far better for him if he were a member of another team than the Dallas Cowboys right now. You can slice it any way you want.
Of course.
Being on the Cowboys
doesn't help you right now.
I'm not saying it hurts you that much because, again, it's not the Dallas Cowboys' fault that he finds himself in this situation. Let me not cast those aspersions on the Cowboys. But because of their history of headlines, over a decade, damn it, a quarter century, the fact is it doesn't help them.
Yeah. Right now, it's he said, she said. I always say 3 sides to every story, right? His, hers, and the truth. But here's the positive, guys. In the past, the NFL has been very reactionary to this. Now they have a protocol in place, so they'll get to the bottom of this. And if he is guilty of it, they'll take the proper steps, regardless of how high they took him in the draft, highest selling jersey, et cetera. They got to get it right this time, and that system is in place. So the NFL will handle that. More First Take after the break. Another fresh